Clarkson Tool and Cutter Grinder Mark 1 Refurb Part 8. In this video I'm finishing the new table nut. In Part 7 I cut the thread. In this part I'm shaping the outside of it and making this boss here where it screws onto the machine. Now this is the old one. Hope you enjoy it. Now we move up to the milling stage to give this thing some shape. I've blued the end of the new nut. I can scratch round and then that'll give me a rough guide to the shape of it. And on this side and the underside I can rely on that scratch and I can cut to that line. But on this face, I don't know exactly where the centre line is for this. I don't want to fall into the trap of making assumptions that are wrong, and when I measure it from there to there and there to there, there's about 0.1 of a mil difference, a fourth thou, something of that order. So this actually isn't in the dead centre of this and this. Whether it's in the centre line for the screw, I don't know, but it makes me sufficiently nervous. I'll work out my own centre here, somewhere there, and then I'll centre drill it, and that'll become my reference for everything that I do on this face. That's near enough, I think. I seem to have a lot of difficulty measuring gaps accurately because I want to find the centre line of this. I don't think this jaw is tilted over, so I think the gap here is about what that is. I've used the calipers 33.3. I've used this device 33.2. I always find the best results with these, and then just a plain old micrometer 33.35. 10mm cutter, which I have measured, and a bit of fag paper. There we go. Easy as that. I've got that centre line now, taking into account the backlash in the Y screw, which is about 1/4 thou or 0.1 of a mil, but I think that's pretty close. And notice, look, I've got a bit of bronze here, which came off this a long time ago, but it just keeps the jaws spaced, that's all. I've touched off on the end, which is not at all critical, and I'll bring it to half, and then I'll lock the table in X and Y. Well, in fact, it's already locked in Y. As another check, final check, I've set my calipers to a gap, which I think is that. I can feel a little click and feel about the same on that side. I can't trust these calipers at that sort of fine degree of measurement, but I can use them as a physical gauge, and I'm happy with it. I mean, to be honest, the chuck run out could be more than I'm trying to get to. There's no quill on this machine, so I just lift the table. That height is about the same as that height. If this new peg has a rounded top, it doesn't matter. There's nothing to come off for here though. To give myself a reference in line with this plane, I'm going to mill a couple of flats, one there and one over here. I don't need to go right down to this level because that's going to be finished on the lathe anyway in the four-jaw, and I want to add 1/4 of a mil to this surface, bring it up by 1/4 of a mil. Just a 1mm cut, and I'll do the same at the other side nearest you. know, thinking about this some more, I'm going to mill this almost to this face. I want to be 1/10 thou above this, 1/4 mil. If I don't do it this way, how do I know how far to take that down when I'm on the lathe? It's very difficult to measure that distance there from the screw to that face. So that's what I'll do. Having done one side, I've moved to the other side, but I've made myself a little reference depth notch there, because when you're turning the handle to put the cut on, it's 2 millimeters per cut. You could easily get off track. Now this is where having a DRO would really help, but I haven't got one. Doing all this by hand in a narrow gap takes a lot of concentration. It would be very easy to grab the wrong handle. So you won't mind if I finish this without video. Now we can turn it over, rest on these two faces, hack off all the rest, follow this as a guide. It doesn't have to be exact. Well, of course, the plan didn't last 5 minutes. It's very difficult to get it onto those flats. So that's near enough, I think. I can see that this hasn't moved relative to the new nut I'm making because of the line I scribed on. So this'll do. It's only for clearance. It's probably about time that I change the table feed gears. They're running a bit slowly. Do I need to square off these sides? I think the answer is no. There's no point unless I have to. So into the 4-jaw, turn that peg. And try not to take any more off those two faces. Well, having decided to leave those sides barreled, I've just traded some work for other. Because you can see I'm having to clock this. It could rotate in that 4-jaw. You have to be a bit careful with this bronze. It's quite soft. You could crush it in this 4-jaw if you really clamped it down. Boy, this has taken a lot of setting up. Got to make sure that it's correct that way, and then correct that way. That peg is 14.26 and 14.28 is 9/16, so that's what it'll be. I've checked it on the grinder, it's not sloppy, so we can make it just that size. I'm just roughing it out. This measures at 14.27. So we can put the plate on it and try. There's absolutely no good angle I can get on this. Talking about video, but trust me, that's gone in. The screw is 5/16 Whitworth, so we'll drill it with an F. That drill's a bit blunt and it's new. I'm afraid those letter drills that I've bought have been a big disappointment. So I've swapped that F for a 6.5. Well, that's now ready to be fitted.